Revealed, the sinister secrets of the deep web. We aren't supposed to discover 12 haunted stories. Sarah sat alone behind the counter at the Cedar Grove convenience store, the fluorescent lights buzzing above her head like a swarm of angry bees. The world outside was a sleepy town, but the darkness seeped into her bones, whispering its secrets. She had her routine, ringing up sleepy truck drivers, occasional teens with jittery laughter, all while her heart beat at a steady rhythm, unaware of the lurking nightmare. She thought she knew everyone. Until one late shift, an idle click led her into the abyss of the deep web. There, sinister stories unfolded. Urban legends of vanished folks, echoing laughter from shadowy alleys. It sent a shiver down her spine. Those tales felt distant at first, just haunting bedtime stories meant to keep kids in line. But as the days wore on, a chill gripped her. The principal of her daughter's school, a kind man she once trusted, started acting strange. Sarah caught his darting eyes in the hallway, nerves radiating from him as he spoke to her daughter. Dark thoughts clawed at her mind. Maybe he was hiding something? It didn't end there. As she stocked shelves late one night, she heard hushed whispers among the customers. Another woman had gone missing, a neighbor from down the street with a smile that once lit up the neighborhood. A storm of panic roiled inside her. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The anxiety twisted her stomach on nights where the clock's ticking echoed like approaching footsteps. The store that had been her sanctuary morphed into a haunting void. Shadows stretched and twisted, playing tricks on her mind, each creak of the floorboards feeding her paranoia. And then the phone calls began. Unknown numbers, breathy voices, speaking of her daughter's daily routine, threatening her sense of safety. You should keep a closer watch, they cooed, like a practiced predator watching its prey night after night. An ominous black truck parked across the street, its driver shrouded in complete darkness. It felt like something straight out of those twisted stories she now couldn't shake from her head. The hairs on the back of her neck stood on end. The face lurking behind those tinted windows was a haunting question she couldn't answer. Were they watching her? Were they part of this growing unease? Desperate for help, Sarah approached the local sheriff, but their dismissive chuckles only intensified her paranoia. What if they were all in on it? What if beneath the playdates and neighborly cheer, something far sinister loomed? Friends became foes in a blink, climbing dread mirrored in their eyes as her gut twisted tighter with each new clue pointing toward an abandoned hospital just outside town. The folklore whispered of hidden evils there, lurking among the shadows, ready to feast on fear. As Sarah dove into the depths of online forums, she encountered a chilling legend, a creature of nightmares that thrived on terror, preying on the vulnerable. And just as she pieced it all together, a horrifying realization settled in her bones. The predator wasn't some distant nightmare, it was woven into the fabric of Cedar Grove itself. Hollowed eyes from behind the truck, familiar faces slipping deeper into darkness. This was only the beginning. Who could she trust? And what would she sacrifice to keep her little girl safe in a town that no longer felt like home? The next few nights grew worse, each moment steeped in dread. Sarah locked the door to the convenience store with trembling hands, the metal cold against her palm. Shadows danced outside, flitting past the windows as if aware of the turmoil within. She was losing grip on her sanity. Every glance over her shoulder felt like an admission of fear. Her resolve fractured. That night, as the clock struck 3, her phone buzzed violently on the counter. The screen flashed an unknown number. The familiar dread washed over her. She took a breath, fear clawing at her throat, and answered with a shaky voice. Hello? Silence responded, a sinister kind of stillness that stretched and coiled around her like a snake. Her heart raced, each beat pounding in her ears. Just as she was about to hang up, a soft voice finally broke the void. Why don't you come visit us at the hospital? The voice was sultry yet tainted with something that sent chills racing down her spine. They've been waiting for you. The line went dead. Sarah dropped the phone, a cold sweat soaking through her clothes. The abandoned hospital loomed in her mind,
its reputation thick with rumors. What kind of twisted games were they playing?
It couldn't be a coincidence that the voices whispered from a place chock full of nightmares. She had to know the truth. The following night, adrenaline coursed through her veins as she made a fateful decision. After the store closed, she drove to the hospital, tires crunching on gravel that felt like bones beneath her car. The building breached the horizon, a hulking form against the starless sky. Broken windows stared down like empty eyes, and the air crackled with an ancient malevolence. As she stepped out, she noticed graffiti splattered across the crumbling walls, threatening messages, twisted drawings that mocked her fears. Clutching her car keys like a weapon, she approached the entrance, the wooden door swinging open at the slightest touch. The inside smelled of decay, mingling with the faint scent of something metallic. The darkness enveloped her, swallowing her whole. Every step echoed ominously, leaving her vulnerable and exposed. As she ventured deeper, she heard faint sounds, moans that turned her stomach, whispers that seemed to call her name in the dark.
Sarah!
Come play with us. She backed away, heart hammering.
Was it real?
The voice felt so tangible, slipping through the shadows like something alive. Just then, the beam of her flashlight fell on something. No, someone sitting in the corner. A figure, hunched and grotesque, emerged from the shadows.
Bloodshot eyes glimmered in the darkness, only to widen in recognition.
It was the neighbor.
The one whose smile used to brighten the town.
But now, her face was a mask of despair, twisted with fear.
Get out of here! They're watching! You need to leave!
She screamed, her voice gliding dangerously off the walls. A prickling sensation crawled up Sarah's spine.
Who was they?
Before she could ask, the lights flickered, and a chorus of laughter erupted from the depths of the hospital. It was maddening, chilling, echoing through every corner. Panic surged, she scrambled backward, but the way out vanished, swallowed by the shadows that taunted her.
In a surge of instinct, Sarah ran down a narrow corridor, the laughter chasing her like a predator.
She reached a room marked with the word laboratory. It swung open before she could hesitate, revealing a space consumed by darkness, tubes and wires snaking from the walls like grotesque limbs waiting to ensnare her. Desperate and cornered, she took a deep breath. She couldn't lose her daughter. The weight of protection coursed through her like fire. She stepped inside, and then, the laughter stopped. In its silence, something dark loomed closer. What secrets lay in the shadows? What awaited her in this haunted place? Would she find the answers she sought, or had she walked into a trap woven with the very fabric of Cedar Grove's nightmare? The walls closed in as Sarah stepped into the laboratory, the door creaking ominously shut behind her. An unnatural chill swept through the air, making her skin crawl. The oppressive darkness was alive, whispering secrets she wasn't ready to hear. She fought the urge to flee, her breath shallow and quick, as if the very act of breathing might summon whatever watched her from the void. The room was cluttered with equipment she barely recognized, rusted metal tables littered with glass vials, all shattered or left to gather dust. A flicker of light caught her eye, and she turned, flashlight beam shaking, an old monitor, its screen flickering to life. An unnerving crackle echoed as deep voices began to emerge, distorted, overlapping each other in a diabolical symphony. Sarah, come join us. Your sacrifice is what they crave. Her heart dropped. She staggered back, the sounds blending with laughter that dripped like blood from the walls. They were toying with her mind, and still, she couldn't shake the feeling that somewhere in the depths of this hellish place, answers lurked just beyond her grasp. The lab smelled overwhelmingly of chemicals mingled with something far more rancid. She started towards the only other door in the room, her instincts screaming at her to get away, but an unsettling curiosity rooted her feet in place. What had happened here? What experiments had been conducted in darkness? Without warning, the monitor surged, images flooding the screen. Faces terrified, pleading. Pictures of the missing people. Men, women, even children from Cedar Grove, their fates sealed in this forsaken place. They wore the same expression, the same horror etched into every feature, terror mixed with understanding. Suddenly, a noise broke through her trance. The unmistakable sound of footsteps shuffling from the corridor. Panic shot through her. Were they coming? Were they the ones from the monitor, still trapped in this twisted nightmare? Get out of here! The voice echoed through the room, familiar yet distorted, and she realized it was her own. A scream clawed at her throat but wouldn't escape. The laughter resumed, higher and more chaotic. In the far corner, a shadow flickered, momentarily illuminated by her flashlight. Another figure, a gaunt specter with hollow cheeks, emerged, eyes wide and vacant. It was too familiar, another neighbor, once vibrant but now nothing more than a husk.
They can see you, the figure rasped, its voice cracking. Listen to the whispering, or you'll be next.
And just like that, the laughter ceased again, replaced by a palpable silence, thick and suffocating.
Who are they?
Sarah struggled to muster the courage to speak, her voice quivering.
Something old. Something hungry, it replied, its dark eyes piercing into her.
You need to run before they take you. Before they take her. That word hung in the air, heavy with dread. Her daughter, she couldn't let them have her too. A stomping sound erupted from the corridor, echoed by whispers that twisted her stomach. Ensnared by the truth, she felt the wall of darkness surge forward, an entity eager to reclaim its prey. Time was running out. With faltering steps, she turned back to the door. But as she flung it open, the corridor twisted in a kaleidoscope of shadows, the walls bending and closing in on her. The laughter roared back, enveloping her like a blanket of despair. Desperation clawed at Sarah, igniting a primal instinct to survive. She sprinted down the corridor, guided only by the frail beam of her flashlight, each step a race against the creeping dark. As she neared the entrance to the hospital, voices rose around her, warping into a cacophony of evil. And as she reached out for the door, her escape, the laughter morphed into something altogether different, a chilling chant. Join us, breathless and terrified, she forced herself through the door, heart pounding. But as she crossed the threshold, an overwhelming pressure bore down on her chest. She stumbled outside, the cold air biting her flushed skin, but the feeling of being watched lingered with an intensity that made her blood freeze.
She was free, yet not truly alive, but the shadows of the hospital lurked at her back, a dark promise imbued with malice, lingering in the depths of the town as history. As she drove away, she couldn't shake the words that echoed in her mind. They've been waiting for you.
And somewhere in Cedar Grove, something else was waiting. What were they planning? What dark truth connected her to the sinister laughter? Her journey was far from over. The landscape blurred around Sarah as she drove, heart pounding like a drum, the night swallowing her whole. The winding roads of Cedar Grove twisted and turned, echoing her thoughts, horror and dread tangled tightly together. She could still hear the haunting laughter echoing in her ears, the grotesque chants circling like vultures waiting for their prey. Her phone buzzed on the passenger seat, pulling her back to reality. Shaking, she grabbed it with trembling hands. A message. The screen lit up, shattering the darkness folded around her. It was from Kiara, her best friend, the one person she had promised to protect.
Where are you?
I'm worried.
Please come home.
Home. The word felt alien now. The safety it once promised had been shattered like the glass from that monitor.
She could almost feel the shadows lurking behind her, stretching thin fingers toward her, ready to drag her back into the night. She slammed the steering wheel, frustration and fear welling up inside her. What was happening to Cedar Grove? What had those dismissed whispers turned into? She needed answers. Without thinking, she took the exit back toward town, her pulse quickening. She knew she shouldn't go back, but the thought of Kiara made her stomach twist. The girl had been there through everything. They had shared secrets, fears, life itself. If that thing, whatever it was hunting for her, Kiara was in danger too. Arriving at her old house, shadows danced in the yard, and the moon's light barely penetrated the darkness. Sarah switched off the engine, heart racing. She stepped out, every nerve ending pulsing with dread. The silence was deafening, broken only by the rustle of leaves and the whisper of the wind. Kiara?
She called softly, fear gripping her throat. She took a cautious step forward, trying to listen for a response. All that answered was the darkness closing in around her.
Sarah? Is that you?
The voice was faint, barely above a whisper.
I'm coming.
She rushed towards it, fighting through the heavy air that felt thick with something unseen. The porch creaked under her footfalls, and she hesitated at the slick doorframe. Please, hurry. Kiara's voice trembled through the wood, carrying an urgency that ignited the fear in Sarah. Taking a deep breath, she pushed the door open. The house smelled of something rotten, a sickening blend of mold and decay. Light from her phone illuminated the living room, shadows shifting along the walls like living entities.
Kiara? Her voice cracked, the earlier strength draining away. Over here. A light flickered in the corner, illuminating Kiara's face, panic-stricken and pale.
She clutched a book, old and full of dark symbols Sarah had never seen before. As Sarah approached, Kiara's eyes widened, darting nervously toward the brimming darkness just beyond the light.
Sarah, it's worse than I thought.
They're coming for us.
They already know you're back. What do you mean? Who?
Sarah demanded, frustration bubbling over.
The whispers they've been here too. I've been researching. Kiara held up the book. These symbols, they're connected to the disappearances.
They want sacrifices and we're their targets. Fear flooded through Sarah again, cold and sharp. She could almost feel the eyes watching them, lurking just beyond the threshold.
Get out!
A voice erupted from within the shadows, deep and thunderous. She grabbed Kiara's arm, ready to run, but a figure stepped out, cloaked in darkness, its eyes glowing like molten silver. Innocence, like yours, is delectable, it hissed, inching closer, leaving a trail of despair in its wake. Kiara pulled Sarah back.
We have to fight. We can't let them take us. But Sarah already felt the invisible chains tightening around her.
As the creature lunged toward them, Kiara screamed, scrambling for the book. Find the counterspell, but Sarah could barely focus. The darkness swallowed her vision, the laughter roaring back in a chorus of sinister delight.
And then, everything went black. What had they unleashed? What was that thing that fed on fear and darkness? Desperation clawed at her throat.
As she pushed against the enveloping void, fighting to find a way out before it consumed them both.
The dark enveloped them, a suffocating blackness that gnawed at Sarah's instincts.
She felt her body weightless, as if suspended in a nightmare, floating deeper into an abyss of fear.
Kiara's presence faded, her voice dimming until it was just a ghostly echo, swallowed by the night.
Panic clawed at Sarah, threatening to overtake her reason. Then, a jolt. Light surged back into her vision, illuminating the room, yet it was different now.
The walls warped grotesquely, stretching and bending, covered in cracked images of figures twisted in despair.
Chains hung from the ceiling, rusted and ancient, rattling softly as if they held the briefest memories of cries for help.
Sarah! Kiara's voice broke through the fog.
Somewhere in the room, she was alive, but the shadows were stirring again. The creature had not taken them, not yet. Heart hammering, Sarah stumbled to her feet, turning toward the sound of the voice, scanning for her friend.
Kiara!
She shouted, the desperation tinged with determination. There, in the corner, she could barely make out Kiara's silhouette, clenching the book tightly to her chest. The shadows coiled around her like snakes, whispering promises of terror and loss.
It knows we're here! Kiara cried, frantically flipping through the pages with trembling fingers. Sarah, I think I found something. A way to fight it.
The creature's laughter echoed through the darkness, low and rumbling.
It slithered toward them, its glowing eyes narrowing, excitement glinting like a knife's edge. You think you can escape?
You are ours, we were waiting.
No! Sarah shouted, a sudden anger pulsing through her.
They won't take her without a fight.
Panic morphed into defiance. You don't have power over us. Kiara's breath hitched. Sarah, the symbols. They protect us.
Her finger trembled over a specific drawing.
But we have to chant it together. What?
Sarah stepped closer, drawing strength from Kiara's fierce grip on the book. As she read the ancient words aloud, they felt foreign yet strangely familiar, burning like fire on her tongue. The creature halted, its expression shifting to rage, confusion sparking in its silver eyes. It recoiled, as if the very air thrummed with energy, pushing it back.
Yes! Kiara cried. Keep going. Just a little more. With each repetition, the symbols in the air glowed, illuminating the room with a fierce light, pushing against the creeping dark. But just as hope began to flicker, the laughter crescendoed, writhing through the space like smoke. Fools! You think you can banish me?
The shadows surged forward, thickening around them. The spell they were weaving flickered, weakened.
You are not the first to try and you will fail, just like them. The room spun once more, the reality around them twisting violently back into the void. It felt like being pulled underwater, a weight crashing down, and Sarah grasped Kiara's hand tighter. Suddenly, the light erupted, a blinding burst, forcing the creature back further. But just before dwindling into darkness again, Sarah saw something, an exit, a faint shimmering portal beckoning in the distance. Kiara! The door! She yelled. Run! Kiara shouted back, fear igniting the words. They bolted forward, hearts in their throats, every beat drumming against the dread. They could hear the creature's furious roars, the shadows clawing at their backs, longing to drag them down again. Just as they reached the doorway, Kiara stumbled, falling to her knees. Go, Sarah! Don't look back! No! Sarah cried, panic slicing through her. She skidded to a halt, adrenaline pulsing. We go together. Bright light surrounded them now, pushing the shadows back. Kiara's terrified eyes pleaded with her, and in that moment, Sarah understood they could not defeat it alone. Not yet. Help me. Kiara gasped, scrambling back toward her friend, but before they could link arms, a shadow shot between them, blocking her way. The darkness surged forward, and Sarah's heart plummeted as she watched the creature swallow Kiara whole. No! She screamed, lunging for the growing darkness as it consumed her friend, leaving. Nothing but silence in the wake. Breathless, Sarah staggered back, heart racing, tears blurring her vision. She had to decide: flee alone or risk it all to save Kiara. The haunting laughter drowned her thoughts, echoing promises of despair. She had to know where it was taking Kiara. It wasn't just about survival now. Something deeper urged her to act. What were the dark symbols hiding? And what would she have to sacrifice to discover the truth? Ripping her gaze from the darkness, a part of Sarah screamed to run, to escape and find safety. But she couldn't do it. Not after witnessing the horror of Kiara's fate. The shadows contorted, lingering just beyond the edge of the now opening portal. In those pulsating depths, she perceived something dreadful, something that could either consume her or reveal her path. Find me. Kiara's voice resonated softly in her mind, layered with a chilling calmness. It pulled at Sarah like a thread, weaving through her racing thoughts. What if Kiara was still out there, trapped but alive? The dread of inaction sunk in. Gripping the edges of the book, she had to make a choice. Mustering every ounce of courage, Sarah opened the thick tome, her fingers brushing past the flickering pages. Blurred images rose and fell under her touch, ancient symbols glowing faintly beneath the dust that had settled over time. In this moment of confusion, a knot of anger surged within her. She wouldn't let the night take everything. Show me, she whispered, staring at the peculiar symbols etched across the pages, their meanings hidden beneath layers of darkness. She closed her eyes, inhaling deeply, as if the very act could anchor her to this world. The laughter returned, reverberating off the warped walls like thunder. You can't hope to understand, it sneered. Those who dive too deep seldom resurface. Ignoring the gnawing fear, she began to chant again. The syllables stumbled off her tongue, a strange rhythm forming amidst the chaos. Each word tore at the air, wrapping her in a cocoon of pulsating energy. The shadows writhed, crashing against the light as she summoned the strength of the ancient words. Join her came the hissing voice again, now tinged with something almost seductive. It slithered into her mind, tempting her with promises, dragging memories from the depths, her childhood fears, whispers of dark corners in her attic, the urban legends told by firelight. In that moment of reflection, as the letters danced before her, she felt a surge of realization. Those stories were true, every last one, she muttered, her heartbeat synchronizing with the chant. The images burned behind her eyes, igniting a flame of clarity. The shadows recoiled, sending a shiver rippling through the dark. You think you've broken the cycle? It spat, its voice now surging with fury. It lunged, black tendrils reaching for her. No! Sarah shouted, feeling the weight of Kiara's absence create a void, fueling her voice. Lights burst from the book, exploding into glimmers that scattered through the room like breaking chains, illuminating faces of those lost before them. Terrified expressions mirrored one another, people trapped in the same torment. Let me help you. Kiara's voice threaded into the chaos, building strength as if mingling with the light itself. I won't abandon you," Sarah cried, the vitality of those lost spiraling around her. She could almost see Kiara's spirit weaving through the glowing threads, reaching out. But just as she believed she could tear away the veil of darkness, a monstrous roar erupted, echoing inside her skull. The shadows surged, filling every crevice, every crumbling wall, threatening to pull her under. Sarah stumbled, blinking, trying to pierce through the chaos. She felt the balance tipping, the shadows pushing back harder, feeling her resolve flicker. "What if I lose myself?" she thought. What if the very act of saving Kiara wiped out her existence entirely? Her grip tightened on the book, unwavering. "I won't let this end here," she breathed, steeling herself for the unknown. From the corner of her eye, she noticed a fleeting glimmer. A fourth symbol, hidden within the pages, pulsed with urgency, the final key she'd missed all along. Together, she whispered, releasing the chant that had woven through her veins, merging it with the golden threads surrounding her. Would this final push save Kiara, or would it pull her down into the abyss as well? The air crackled, pressing against her skin, urging her forward as the shadows howled in fury. Desperation clawed at her determination. Would the truth of Kiara's fate reveal itself, or would it lead to something darker than she could ever imagine? The words tumbled out, echoing in the chaos, merging with the pulsing energy coiling around Sarah. Each syllable felt charged, like lightning ready to strike. She felt the tether to reality fraying, her senses sharpened against the pull of despair. The shadows writhed, swirling like a storm unleashed, clawing at her thoughts. Visions flashed before her, images of Kiara trapped in endless darkness, her cries for help distorted into a haunting melody. It twisted deep in Sarah's gut, threatening to rip her apart from the inside. "Please," she gasped, her voice a threadbare whisper now, all strength waning. "Help me find you." In response, the shadows shrieked, a cacophony of anguished screams merging into one. "You have no idea what you're asking for." The voice, thick with malice, churned in the air like poison. Suddenly, the final symbol on the page thrummed, radiating warmth. A glimmer of golden light burst forth, a shockwave pushing back against the encroaching blackness. It was bright enough to illuminate the space, marking the boundary between Sarah and the chaos. A sensation of hope flared briefly, but doubt encroached like a creeping fog. What if she failed? What if this act of defiance invited more darkness? She hesitated, the weight of her choices calming the storm around her, if only for a second. Sarah Kiara's voice broke through the tumult again, softer now, tethering her resolve. "You must focus, trust yourself." Nodding, Sarah honed in on that voice, the faint echo anchoring her. She locked eyes with the glowing symbol, reaching out as if it were Kiara's hand. "I trust you, I can't lose you." The moment stretched, a silent truce amidst chaos, until tendrils of darkness lunged forward, snapping like whips in the air. They struck the light, sparking violent bursts that resonated inside Sarah's chest. "End this!" The shadows roared, their fury palpable, suppressing any flicker of hope. Sarah gasped as a flurry of images crowded her mind, every victim trapped in this dark web of despair. Each face, a reminder of what was at stake. "Your resistance means nothing." The demoness hiss wrapped around her. "You'll join them in the abyss." But Sarah refused to relent. With all the courage she could muster, she began to chant again, her voice rising above the cacophony, fueled by each captured soul encouraging her onward. Together the words resonated, drawing energy from the pages below, illuminating fragments of lost lives, each a spirit yearning for release, weaving them into her strength. The shadows shrieked, recoiling as each syllable battered them like waves against a shore. They darkened, pulling back, but Sarah felt their desperation, a creature thrashing against the light, trying to reclaim its prey. "Join her," it coaxed with a sly croon, now almost pleading, but beneath it lay a venomous undertone, threatening to suffocate her once more. "No!" she cried back, seething. "I'll never let you win." The words ignited the last flickers of hope scattered like embers among the shadows. She felt them converge on her, the power building, blood pounding as if every moment echoed her heartbeat. Then, she felt it, a warmth, a familiar presence threading through the chaos. Kiara's spirit alive within the chants, a ghostly hand connecting in that moment. Their energies intertwining, causing an eruption of light that swept through the room as if it had been set alight. Sarah breathed deeply,
feeling the tapestry of souls interspersed with her own. With one last push, she let the energy explode outward, facing the darkness head-on. And in that blinding radiance, she caught a glimpse something monstrous lingering in the shadows at the portal's edge, its features grotesque and familiar. A flash of terror clenched her heart. "Sarah, save me," came a voice that made her blood turn to ice. The voice wasn't Kiera. It was a sound she thought she had buried forever. The air thickened, the portal pulsating with unholy energy. As the light burst to reclaim the darkness, a cold breeze swept across the room, whispering, hinting at things still lurking just out of sight. "Do you dare to summon what sleeps?" In that split second, Sarah understood, she wasn't just battling for Kiera. She was awakening something that had waited too long beneath the surface. The horror was far from over, it was just beginning. The light surged, momentarily blinding. Sarah shielded her eyes, every muscle tensed, bracing for the impact of whatever nightmare loomed behind the veil. Was it Kiera reaching for her? Or something far worse? The shadows writhed violently, screeching in agony as they fought against her burgeoning light, but that voice, the voice that pierced her heart, continued to claw at her sanity. "Sarah, come to me." It carried a familiar lilt, the echoes mingling with a rancid darkness that sent cold tendrils creeping along her spine. "Why," she murmured, forcing the words through trembling lips, "why do you sound like him?" The entity stepped forward, emerging from the depths of the chaos swirling around. Its form flickered in and out of focus, each shift revealing more grotesqueness. The face she feared emerged, a twisted caricature of the man she had known. Max. The one who had betrayed her trust, cast her into a realm of nightmares. "Remember me?" he sneered, voice laced with ice. "You buried me, but I am deeper than the darkness surrounding you now. You've refused to let me rest." With each word, terror clawed at Sarah's throat like a vicious predator. Memories flooded back, nights spent pleading with him for love, for clarity, only to bathe in betrayal. The warmth of Kiera's presence simmered behind her like a smoldering ember, urging her to resist. "No! I won't." Sarah's protest drowned in a tidal wave of sound. The dark surged back, howling in concert with Max's laughter, unraveling the light as if it were mere thread. "Did you think this could end by ignoring the truth?" he taunted, moving closer, the shadows elongating around him like serpents. "You're uncovering something that was never meant to see the light." Panic unfurled in her chest. Not only did she need to save Kiera, she had to ground herself before she was swallowed by the spiral of madness. "Get away from me! You're not real!" Her heart raced, pounding like a drum, each beat a reminder of her fragility. Not real? Max's eyes rolled back, pouring forth the remnants of the souls he had consumed. Faces blurred and blended into one horrific visage of despair, their mouths open in eternal wails. "You brought this upon yourself. All you had to do was embrace the darkness." With every reverberating shriek, the haze thickened, suffocating her thoughts, drowning out the chant of unity. Lost spirits clawed at Sarah on all sides, a voice rising among the chaos. Together the fabric of her energy pulled taut as Kiera's presence flickered in resolve. "Fight him!" Kiera urged, her voice like the sparse thread stitching the world back together. "He is all deception." "Your choices are your chains," Max hissed, edging ever closer, his fingers stretching out like gnarled roots hungry for new soil. "Let go, Sarah." Join us. Sarah felt herself teetering on the brink, the weight of darkness pushing against her as she struggled to cling to the light, to Kiera. "No!" she shouted, drawing in a deep breath, summoning every ounce of defiance from within. "I will free you both. I won't let you win." The air vibrated, visibly rippling around her. She closed her eyes, concentrating on the warmth of Kiera's presence, on the hope growing like a wildfire. The light surged forth again, and she screamed the chant, adrenaline pumping as it swelled into a thunderous echo spinning out, infinitely powerful. But as the light clashed violently with the shadows, she caught a flash of movement from the corner of her eye. Something else lurked. A form, much larger and far more sinister, curled just beyond the brilliance of her radiance. "Do you think the fight is within a mere wraith?" It rumbled low, a voice thick as the roots of ancient trees, rising from the vast darkness like a beast stirring from slumber. You awaken the nightmares of the deep and they will come. As Sarah braced herself, feeling the ground tremble beneath her, the shadows erupted, morphing into a vortex of thrashing dread. The battle was escalating, and the deepest, darkest horror lay yet undiscovered in the void. What would rise to claim its place in there? Reality? The whisper of truth surged louder in the abyss, and she couldn't shake the increasing dread that something worse than betrayal awaited her, something she'd unwittingly unleashed. Would she find the answers before it was too late? The vortex of shadows whirled violently, crashing against the light as tendrils of darkness clawed at Sarah's resolve. Each heartbeat echoed in her ears, loud and frantic as she fought to maintain her grip on sanity. She could feel Kiara's presence wavering, as if the very ground they stood on was shifting beneath them. "Stay with me." Kiara's voice pierced through the cacophony, but it crackled like a damaged radio, distorted and faint. "We can do this together." But Max's laughter echoed, an ominous sound that sent chills wrapping around Sarah's spine. "Together? What a lie! You have forgotten that unity breeds vulnerability," he taunted, his form flickering between what was and what should have never been. "You're just as lost as the souls I devoured." With a primal scream, Sarah pulled herself back, focusing fiercely on the light she had created. It flickered, sputtered, but didn't extinguish. "I won't let you take her." Each word felt like an uphill climb against the weight of despair. Suddenly, the larger entity's form slithered forward, ginger and deliberate. A monstrous maw cracked open at its center, teeth glistening like shards of broken glass under a forgotten moon. It didn't just want to feast on fear, it craved existence, a hunger deep-rooted in the very fabric of the universe. "Your friend is but a spark," it bellowed, voice rumbling like distant thunder. "You can't protect what will soon be reduced to ash." Just as Sarah was about to scream again, a crackling flash of light erupted around her. It cut through the void like a lighthouse beacon piercing a storm. The brightness stung her retinas, but in that instant, she felt something shift in the shadows. There, nestled within the chaos, a pair of eyes flickered, ancient and sorrowful, betraying a reminder of a long-lost love. "Max," she whispered, feeling the warmth of memories flood in. You once cared." The shadows recoiled, howling in fury. They twisted around her like flailing hands, but for a heartbeat, she held onto that memory, hoping it would anchor Kiara and herself in the perilous space. "Care?" His laughter morphed into shrieks of rage. "You thought that meant anything in the end? Love is nothing but a chain, and you forged it yourself." The rage erupted and the world around them shifted once more, with familiar faces shooting past her. Sarah struggled, grasping for Kiara in the confusion. "Sarah!" Kiara's voice fought through the whirlwind. "Trust yourself. Remember who you are." But the ground felt unsteady, and the darkness lunged forward. Max extended his grotesque fingers, the shadows behind him swirling tighter, threatening to snapshot like a vice. She felt the pressure building inside her, the flickers of hope mingling with fear. "No!" She thundered outward, the light rippling in response. It bent and warped, growing into a radiant flare, blinding and pure. Yet, in a split moment, an icy whisper curled around her thoughts. "Do you know what you've awakened?" The entity from the depths closed in deeper, darker, hungrier. Her heart raced, each beat matching the pounding in her ears. Something else was happening, something beyond Max and the shadows. Fear gripped her chest tightly, realizing they'd merely scratched the surface, the deeper secrets roiled beneath the peaks of horror. "Your struggle is meaningless," the entity threatened, the shadows shifting under its command. "It will claim you." All the foundations of the world beneath her erupted, fracturing as the grotesque entity surged forward, claws extended, eager to devour every flicker of light. What waited below the surface? What truth arose from the foundation of fear and betrayal? Sarah steeled herself, determination igniting amidst the terror. But when the shadows rushed forward, ready to consume her whole, she realized that the true battle was still ahead, an unholy awakening they were all destined to face. And what she wouldn't know yet, was how her choices could either unleash or bind the chaos once and for all. The swirling shadows twisted maliciously around Sarah, hissing and writhing, as if sensing the dark force ready to break free. Panic fueled her heart, but it was in desperation that a sliver of clarity emerged. She needed to confront the insidious nightmare that had haunted her town. She had to confront Max. With every ounce of strength, she focused on the light still flickering in her surroundings, desperate to harness it for the battle ahead. "Stay back!" she shouted, her voice echoing into the void. The shadows surged forward, but just as they did, a pulse of warmth gripped her heart, and she remembered Kiara's presence, the bond they shared stronger than the darkness clawing at them. Time slowed, and in that moment of clarity, Sarah grasped the book tightly, reciting the incantation once more, each word a step toward liberation. "Together we are stronger," she shouted, feeling every syllable resonate. The glowing light spiraled out from her fingertips, illuminating the room in a burst of brilliance that pushed against the shadows. The laughter faltered, eyes narrowing in fear. "No! You cannot fight what is already in your blood." Max twisted, his form contorting grotesquely, branches of darkness whipping around him. "I can because I choose to fight," she declared, determination coursing through her veins, channeling the bond she felt with Kiara. Sweat poured down her face, and the shadows flickered, hesitating in the face of her defiance. "I won't let you take anyone else," she roared, channeling everything she had into the chant, with echoes of the lost souls reverberating around her, every victim fueling her anger and illuminating her purpose. The shadows shuddered, retreating momentarily before surging once more, venomous and dark. But as Sarah continued her chant, she felt the energy culminate in a singular point above her, an orb of light that pulsed, gathering strength, warmth, light. "You are nothing," she cried, challenging the darkness that had woven itself into the very fabric of her life. Then, with an explosive burst, the energy released, sweeping through the room like a fresh spring wind, tearing apart the darkness, the light dissolving it bit by bit. Laughter turned into screams, shadows splintering, exposing specters of terror. "No! You will be mine!" Max bellowed, launching forward, fury radiating off him. "It's not your choice," Sarah called back, focusing on the bright sphere of energy that now blazed before her. Realizing this was the embodiment of her will and her love for Kiara, the shadows fought back, darkness lashed out, trying to encircle her. But with one cohesive breath, she summoned every ounce of will. "You don't own me!" The orb exploded into a radiant beam, pure as sunlight, lancing through the dark. It burned fiercely, concocted from the sacrifices and love she had known, merging with bonds forgotten. Suddenly, the air swirled, a chaotic cyclone of light and shadow, as the darkness began to fragment, fissures ripping through it, revealing groans of torment rather than roars of power. The faces of the lost floated momentarily, brightening the air with their silent pleas. Sarah felt Kiara's energy pushing through what remained of the shadows. "Shatter it!" Kiara's voice soared, merging with the light. In that moment, Sarah made a choice fueled by love, by loss, and by all of the lives that mattered. She didn't just fight for herself or Kiara, she fought for every forgotten soul in Cedar Grove. "I release you!" she shouted, intertwining her powerful incantation with a desperate resolve. With that, the sphere burst wide open, flooding the room, dispersing the shadows like mist under the sun. The cries of the dark entity faded, a banshee wail carried off on the winds of light as it unraveled, revealing the skeletal remains of the forsaken structure they had faced. As the light enveloped her, Sarah blinked against it, her heart pounding, adrenaline throbbing in her veins. Then, slowly, she found herself back in their old home, everything returned to as it had been. But instead of feeling relief, her heart tightened. "Kiara!" she called, terror seeping through each syllable. And there, in the lightened room, stood Kiara, eyes wide with disbelief, clutching the heavy old book as tremors of fear filtered through her body. "Did we do it?" Kiara gasped, voice shaking with uncertainty. "Is it over?" Sarah echoed, wrapping her arms tightly around her friend, a flood of gratitude radiating through her. The warmth of connection surged, and even though shadows had lingered all around them, there was hope woven in their embrace. To their horror, they heard a soft chuckle, far too recognizable. "You think this ends just like that?" The air thickened, tensing, and Sarah's breath caught in her throat, knowing the sinister truth was yet to be finalized, but Kiara gripped her tighter, like carving out a sanctuary around them with their raw connection. Together she breathed. "Can never be undone." With a fierce spark in her heart, Sarah faced the shadows lingering at the edges, knowing that for every darkness that returned, they would cast light of their own, always reconnecting, always fighting. Cedar Grove was far from done with its battles, but together, they could face whatever lurked in the darkness, and as the familiar laughter rang out once more, rather than fear, Sarah felt a flicker of hope. Because even in the shadow of despair, they had prevailed. You need to subscribe now so you won't miss the next exclusive story. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button right now to feed the algorithm. I want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with all your reactions and theories about this ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. True fans know how important it is to support the channel through your actions.